Hello and welcome to episode 31 of the Kingfisher Knits podcast. My name is Madeleine. I'm talking to you as usual from my home in Zurich, where I live with my husband and our 2 children. We also have one on the way. I'm somewhere between 5 and 6 months pregnant at the moment, and I know it's terrible, I can't remember which week of pregnancy I'm in, but you remember all the details with the first one, some of the details with the second one, and I guess I just don't have time to think about it now with baby number 3. Anyway, I would like to say a big hello to everybody. Thank you so much for coming along to hang out with me and chat about knitting again. If this is your first time, thank you very much for coming to check me out. And if you're a returning viewer, thank you very, very much. It is, I can't remember exactly what date it is, but we're in October. We're towards the end of October right now. It's been a while since I last recorded. Life is busy and that's how it is, but I'm really glad that I found some time, carved out a little bit of time to sit down and talk to you today. I will say at the top of the episode that show notes, that is information about what I talk about, you'll find down below this video on YouTube in the description box. There's also links on where to find me on Instagram and Ravelry and my website. And anything else? We do have an ongoing CAL. It's the mixed base CAL. I have pulled out my project, although I haven't brought it along to show to you today because I did a little bit of progress. But I do think by the next podcast I want to talk about that again and talk about setting up some dates for running that up. I have a bunch of prizes for that which I would really like to give out to those who have been taking part. So just word out there to all of you, if you were already taking part in the mixed base CAL, get back on board because I would like to. We would like to wrap it up some point this year, and there's still time to join in. The premise of it is that you knit something which is using mixing bases, that being either fibre type or weight. So you have a project where you have 2 different weights of yarn in the same project, like mixing a lace weight with a fingering weight, holding them double or not, just as an example, or you can also qualify by mixing bases in the sense of the fibre. So let's say you're pairing a silk yarn or a silk mohair yarn with a merino yarn, or have an alpaca cotton blend and you're mixing it with a silk yarn. Just examples. There is a link to the thread where I explain all of the rules, so I will pop that down below as well. But I would like to get back to that because I do have some prizes and I keep not, it seems sad that they're sitting around. Okay, I normally start with whips once I've got a bit of admin out the way, so I'm going to jump straight into that. I have 3 main whips that I've been working on since I last spoke to you. A few other ones have been worked on a bit here and there, for example my socks in hedgehog fibres, but I'm not going to pull those out again until I finish them. I'm at the point where I just have to do the toes now. So the first whip I'm going to talk to you about is something I think I shared on the podcast a long time ago when I cast it on. I certainly shared the intention to cast it on. And this is my Selby mittens. The Selby mittens are, of course, the very famous by now pattern. This was the original mitten pattern from Eli of Skeindeer knits. And so I have this pattern. Of course, she has numerous other mitten patterns out now, but I figured I should start with the original. I am making mine out of yarn from Kate Davies. So this is her tag, Kate Davies yarn. We've discussed how this should be pronounced. When I looked it up, it said Buachaille. I've heard people call it Buachaille. So there you go. And I'm using 2 different colours. I'm using the Eli colourway and the ptarmigan colourway. I don't know if ptarmigan is just the undyed, the natural yarn. It's a lovely sort of ecru, unbleached, creamy white. Anyway, I really love this colour, and this yarn is, I guess you would call it a DK weight yarn. It's 100% non-superwash wool. It's 110 meters for 50 grams. And I have finally pulled this out again, and this is where I am. So I do find working, I've never been the very best at colour work. I didn't talk about what I'm wearing. I'll come back to that. I've never been I'm not a total natural, let's say, at colour work, but I love the effect. I don't dislike working it. I just, you know, it's not as easy as just doing stockinette in the round, of course. And I found that this is my first time working magic loop, you know, a fairly small circumference of knitting, and I have been struggling a little bit more with it. I do know that these yarns tend to be quite forgiving in blocking, so I'm not too upset with how it's looking. It was a bit iffy in bits in the cuff, but the main motif is looking pretty good. The sides, which is also where I'm changing, obviously, with the loop, are looking a little bit squiffy, especially this one. I'm quite happy with how the thumb gusset looks, and the palm pattern, I don't know, you know, it's often like one stitch in each colour. There are sections where you can see it a lot clearer and sections where you don't see it as well. I'm always holding the white as the dominant colour, but in this section, I'm not sure why you're not seeing that as well. The yarn is a tiny bit thick and thin. It's not a very thick and thin yarn. It's pretty nice. It's a woolen spun 2-ply yarn, but there are just bits where it's a little bit thinner and occasional sort of fluffier bits. But I don't think that that's the reason that this effect. Anyway, we'll see how they look after blocking. So I certainly love the colour, I love the design, and you know, these will be coming along slowly but surely. So what I didn't talk about is what I'm wearing. This is the Vinterfjell yoked sweater from Eli of Skeindeer knits. I was a test knitter for it, so originally back when it had a different name, and I did mine with short sleeves. I used Holst Super Soft in 3 different colours. This cream one is definitely a crew. I think that the light blue was opal and the dark blue was mariner. It looks black here, but it's a very dark, slightly tealish, teal, leaning towards teal blue, sort of petrol, very dark petrol blue. But anyway, I will link my project page where all the information is on that. Anyway, I put it on from time to time, and although it's incredibly lightweight, I mean, you can almost see, I'm wearing a pink t-shirt underneath, which you can almost see coming through. It is still surprisingly warm. Anyway, that's what I'm wearing. The second whip that I want to talk to you about is the, I guess the main whip I was talking about last time. It's also probably the majority of what I've worked on, and that is my Serafina top. I am working this out of yarn from Sidispint, which is here in Switzerland. She has a shop in Bern, but also online. She sells her own yarn and also stocks other yarn brands and dyers. I know recently she got in snail yarn from Italy. This is her merino cable or cable base. It is a DK, a sort of heavy DK, a light DK heavy sport weight yarn. It's 100 grams, gives you 250 meters. I'm using 2 colors. Here I only have a cake of the main color I'm using, which is called Stein, which means stone. It is a lovely tonal, sort of warm, soft gray. And on the shoulders, the lace of this pattern, I'm just using the natural undyed yarn. I have, since I last podcast, tried this on, decided I was happy with the size. I had woven in all my ends up to that point, but what I have not done is trimmed them. It's just a habit that I have. I mean, if they were very long, I've trimmed them down a bit, but I've woven them all in, and I will only trim them after blocking. Oh, we've got the yarn that's attached there. So it was a top down. It's a top, like a t-shirt, like a drop shoulder. And I think when I showed it to you last, I was still doing decreases at the underarm here for like the little sort of sleeve part. And I have now almost finished the body. I had alternated skeins throughout of this tonal grey. You can see that it's very tonal. To be honest, you can't really tell where I've alternated skeins. And I have to say the final skein, which I'm on now, which I have nothing left to alternate with, I tried alternating it with itself, but it is just appreciably a bit darker. I can tell you that the camera here always picks up a lot more contrast than you see by the naked eye. By the naked eye, you can just tell that it's a bit darker, but you don't pick up anything else. So I'm now on the twisted rib at the bottom. I'm about halfway through that. And then all there is to do is to pick up the neckband, which is worked in twisted rib, and the cuffs to the armholes. It's a short-sleeved top. And my plan is to work those in the natural yarn, because I feel in the the undyed colour, I feel that will tie in the top nicely while the edging at the bottom has been done in the grey yarn. So I've done a lot of work on this. I've really enjoyed working on it. Of course, it slowed down a touch with the twisted rib, just takes longer than the rest of the garment, but I think I did that 1 inch of twisted rib in one sitting. I do love twisted rib, how it looks. Isn't it just beautiful? I'm using higher sharps. This I was using 3.5 millimeters for the body, and now I'm on 3.25 millimeters for the twisted rib. So, doesn't feel like that long till that will be done, although right now, although it served me well as a project for quite a while, it's not my absolute priority, but there's not much to be done, so it'll be something when I have to just, it's easy, and there's no shaping to do now, it's just finishing that twisted rib and binding off, and then once I've picked up, it will always just be an easy, quick pick up just to work a couple of rows when I need that kind of work. I just have a feeling that I will slow on it a little bit at the moment. And the main reason for that is that I have cast on a new project, and this is a design project. I realise it's actually my first adult garment design project. I have a few kids' garment designs that I've worked on, but this will be my first adult one. First, I have to talk about the bag. I have admired Dani of Little Bobbins for a long time. I do have one small bag of hers, which someone very kindly sent to me as part of the Get Your Yarn Wishes Granted, which we're almost coming round to again, thinking about it. That's in November, isn't it? The Instagram tag that happens every year. Someone sent me a lovely small, sort of sock bag of Dani's from Little Bobbins. But I've especially admired ever since she started doing collaborations with her mother. And her mother does little hand embroidered set pieces, which you can see here, and then Dani makes them into bags. So this was done by Dani's mother, who is Liz or Lisa, and so she does these, it's just really beautiful, sort of, I don't know, whimsical, sort of makes it sound like it diminishes the value a bit, but I really think it's beautiful. All those little flowers. And then Dani has picked fabrics. She's done a sort of pieced border to the main bit, and then she's finished off the rest of the bag. I love every fabric that's been used in this bag. I love the little hearts, I love the trees, and the, let's say, main fabric here. It's so cute. So I'm absolutely thrilled that I managed to get myself one of these when she did her last update. And I'm thrilled with it, and it's a decent size. So I currently have 3 skeins of fingering weight yarn in here, and a little notebook, because whenever I'm designing I need somewhere to jot down all those random things that I do, which I think that I'll remember, but I never do. Anyway, so this project is working in the yarn that I got from Chile Knits. Chile Knits is from Chile. She's called Connie, and she has some beautiful yarn. I think she's particularly well known for yarn like this. So beautiful, bright, vibrant colours with beautiful speckles, although she also has, her colour sense is fantastic. She has lots of very beautiful yarn. So you can see this one here that I've used the majority of already is more, it's a bit more than just what I would call a tonal purple, because there's also speckles and the light going on there, but it's compared to the others, it's more of a tonal. So these are the colourways that I'm using, just to make sure. This is Masquerade Light. Let me just show you Connie's tag. Of course I have them all folded up in the middle of my little cake, so they're a bit squished. But this is her tag. Can we get that without glare? There we go. This is her cuddly sock base, which is 85% superwash merino, 15% nylon. It's a 4-ply and it's 438 yards. I love that she has these, so I always write what they actually weigh, but sorry, excuse my nail there. I managed to slam my finger. I wasn't giving anyone the finger there. I managed to slam my middle finger in the car door. What was it, 2 weeks ago now? No, 1 week ago now, yeah. I don't recommend it. It was very painful and I couldn't knit for at least a day. She has these, what do you call it, like washing symbol information here on the back. It's not focusing on that. Sorry, it's focusing on me down here, not that. Anyway, it just tells you, you can cool, wash it, tells you how to block it, do not wring it. I really like it. So I'm using the purple colour is Masquerade Light. This grey, beautiful dove grey with all the sort of rainbow speckles is called Sound of Silence. And this one, I can never remember. It's something like Imagine. Let me check. Imagination. There we go, almost had it. And this beautiful, vibrant light aqua blue is called Imagination. This is going to be a top, a short-sleeved top. I have started it it's top down. It's not in the perfect condition to show it to you because I'm about at the maximum stitch count right now around this part of the top. But I've decided that I am going to show my progress on this while I'm working on it. So I'm not going to have this to be a design project that I'm working on that I can't show you until it's all done and ready and everything. So I thought I'll take you along for the ride, and that's much more fun for me as well. Sometimes I can't do that because it's not my choice. It's not going to be a self-published pattern and there's nothing I can do about that. But I think when I can, I like to show things. I do have another project which I finished, which I was working on last week, but I haven't blocked it yet, so I'm just going to save that for next time. So I'm working this on high sharps 3.25 millimeters. I started with twisted rib here at the top. So some beautiful twisted rib for the neckline. It is a circular yoke design, top down. So this is the very top. It's all bunched up right now, and you'll see it better, of course, when it's separated with the sleeves. But I've just worked simple in stockinette here at the top, just letting the colour speak for itself. I think it's really, really beautiful. There isn't short row shaping yet. That will come after I finish this main part of the yoke. I'm still working on it. I've almost finished the yoke. So I've got this band section here, which just has a little bit of light, just little 1/1 twisted stitches. So once I finish that, I'll put in some short row shaping, separate for the sleeves. And so obviously the plan is this colour is going to be for this top part, and it's going to be kind of colour blocked in that there's quite a contrast between those colours, this colour and these ones, and then these will make up the body. So you'll see how they'll play together once I actually get that far. But I just really love working on this. I feel like it's worked up really, really quickly. It is mostly going to be stocking stitch in the round, but with some interest here in this case by this little pattern, which is going across the fullest part of the yoke, and in the body you'll be using the two colours, so there will be enough to keep the interest, but yet it's just a lovely, relatively quick project because it's fingering weight, but it's going to be a short sleeve top. So I will keep you updated on that as I'm working on it. I'm just going to put my yarns back. So I said I'm working on 3.5mm needles right now, although I worked the twisted rib on 2.75mm needles. I really wanted a really nice defined little neckband in twisted rib. I didn't want it to be too loose or something that would stretch out too much. So I have a feeling I will be done with the yoke on that pretty soon. There is a tiny bit of concentration left to finish the yoke and some stitch count adjustments. There is short rows to work, and once that's all done, I separate for the sleeves, and then it's going to be a nice easy project to finish off. Yeah, so I'm really, really excited about that. I'm interested to see how it will turn out, if it turns out exactly how I imagined or not, but I'm just enjoying the process very much at the moment. So, as those are my main whips. As I said, I finished one thing, but it's not blocked, and I didn't have a huge amount of time to record a podcast anyway, and so again, waiting to record a podcast just because I haven't blocked something, and this one does need blocking really, for the way that I've shaped it. So I will just show that to you next time. I do have a few little final bits and bobs to talk to you about. Another thing I wanted to say is that I'm aware that a couple of episodes back I said that I would answer questions, so we had a giveaway and we had a thread for that in Ravelry, and the prompt for it was just to ask me a question, and I said there were some good questions there and I would come back and answer them and do a Q&A, sort of kind of like a Q&A portion either of a podcast or as a podcast episode just of Q&A, and I just haven't had the time, and if I take the time that I have to record to do the Q&A and not show you my knitting, it feels like I'm not sort of achieving the primary point of this podcast, which is to share my knitting with you. Anyway, so I will do that, just not yet. So the first thing that I have to talk to you about is the October knit crate from KNITCRATE. Things changed again this month. I feel like KNITCRATE are constantly developing and changing a little bit what they're doing, tweaking things here and there. And I mean, in general, for me, they're definitely not taking a step backwards. Everything they're doing is like another step forward. So if you remember in the past, depending on which crate you got, you would get patterns specific for that yarn. So the crate that they have sent me there's just their membership crate, which always has 2 skeins of yarn, and you always got a knitting pattern and a crochet pattern for that design, for that yarn and the amount of yarn that you had received. And if you did the artisan membership, which had different yarn, you would always get, I think, 1 knitting pattern there, and you get a little extra. Then you have the sock membership crate, so you'd always get a pattern for that, and the sock artisan was similar. This time, they have done a magazine, so it's a proper glossy little mini magazine. You can see it's a small format, so fits in a project bag, I would say. And this is their theme, sort of their colour, I don't know, promotional photo, let's say, for October. Interestingly, on the back cover, they give you a sort of a sneak peek at November, the next month, so they show you what their theme is for next month. And now, in this magazine, you have all of the patterns, so all of the patterns for every single crate. So you get the yarn for the crate that you've ordered. Anyway, so for the membership crate, these were the yarns this time around. It is their Augustine, let me just see if I can get that a bit less glary, there we go. So it's Ordine Woods, sorry, Halo DK. And these are the 4 different colours that they had. The colour that you get 2 skeins, and the colour that I got was this very beautiful tonal green. I think it's called Olive. Yes, it was called Olive. So this base is 50% alpaca, 30% merino wool, 20% nylon. I believe it's non-superwash. It is a very, very lovely, squishy, plump yarn. I mean, with that put up, I would say it's a worsted weight. It's a lovely plump yarn. It is soft, it's not scratchy. It's not butter soft, which as I say, it's a non-superwash, and there's alpaca in there, so I'm very sensitive to alpaca. I'm kind of a bit allergic to alpaca, so this will go towards a prize, but the yarn is just gorgeous. I mean, if you love alpaca blends, this is great because it's you can see it's not as drapey as some alpaca yarns. It's clearly got strength from that nylon and the merino, and it has a lovely squishy bounce to it, which I don't typically associate with alpaca yarns or alpaca blends. So I think this would make a gorgeous sweater, for example, and it would be lovely and warm because it's 50% alpaca. So it's a beautiful tonal yarn. The patterns that they had designed for that particular yarn this time around, I don't want to show you everything. This was a crocheted shawl, and there is a beautiful knit, let me just show you, lacy shawl for the knitting pattern. So this is great. You have a little booklet, everything's here. So in the past, you used to be able to you'd get the patterns as PDFs in your membership central, it's called, once you've signed up for KnitCrate. And then you'd have to print them off. And in the last couple of months, they've sent you cards which had the patterns on them. And now you have a magazine which has the patterns written in them. It also has information about the designers, which is really, really nice. You know, as an indie designer myself, I think it's always nice when you know who is designing the patterns that you're working on and a bit more information about them. So I'm really impressed by this. Gosh, there's a gorgeous pattern here. I think this came with the artisan crate this month, and I think that's been really popular. Look at that. It's a beautiful sort of poncho caplet pattern here. That's First Frost by Lana Joyce. So this is an interesting development from KnitCrate. I just remind everybody that we have, I have a link down below which takes you to KnitCrate, and we have a 20% off code. So for your first, you get 20% off your first month when you sign up for KnitCrate. It is a monthly subscription service. You can cancel, of course, at any time. I definitely have zero problems whatsoever recommending them and recommending the quality of their yarn. As I always say, you don't know what you're getting each month, which can be nice, and they also have different colorways, and you don't know which color you're going to get. So probably some months it's going to be right up your street, and another month maybe not. So that's just the only thing that I always say, I think, to bear in mind. You don't get to choose what you're being sent. But it is $24.99, that's US dollars per month. That's 2 skeins of yarn, where the value of each of them is about $24. It's indie dye, you know, it's hand dyed yarn and beautiful bases. And that includes shipping worldwide. So yeah, the code, I will write it down below, but it is Kingfisher20, all written together, all in capital letters, but 20 is a number, 20. So please do make use of that code if you're interested in purchasing anything from KnitCrate. Still on the KnitCrate theme, I am going to do a giveaway. So I have 2 skeins of yarn from them, which was part of the August, let me just think, September, yeah, this was the August yarn from KnitCrate. This is back before they gave you the patterns, so I'm afraid I can't include the patterns that were designed for this. As you can see, this is a variegated yarn. It is a lovely, very, very plump, bouncy superwash merino. They say it's a worsted weight. It is 164 meters for 100 grams, so it's a very lovely, heavy worsted weight. And I think with this, you could certainly make a beautiful cowl, or you could make a hat with some matching, you know, mitts, or even, I think you could get a hat out of one skein and a cowl out of the other skein, or if you want a bigger cowl, you could use both skeins, or you could do hat and mitts, or little cowl and mitts. There's lots of things you could do with this. It's beautiful, beautiful yarn, as I said, superwash merino. This one was the Knitology, or is it Knitology? Yeah, Knitology is the name of the yarn brand, and the colorway was called School Zone. So I'm going to do a giveaway for this. This is going to be a YouTube video, a YouTube giveaway. All I'm going to ask you to do is leave a comment down below this video on YouTube. Please don't use the word giveaway, because that tends to attract the wrong kind of attention. Just let me know what you're knitting at the moment. What's your favorite project? If you have multiple whips like me, what are you knitting on right now? What's your #1 whip? So if you just put that down in the comments, then next time I will draw for a winner and I will contact you so that I can send you this yarn. I think it's really, really beautiful. I just know I'm not getting around to use it right now. And I also have some exciting news, which is that I'm going to be attending my first ever knitting festival. So I just don't feel like I want to keep hold of yarns which, while totally beautiful, I don't have an immediate plan for. So I have, of course, a few yarns which are sort of souvenir yarns or special yarns that I could never get rid of. But otherwise, pretty much everything in my stash has an idea. Some like a specific pattern, some just a type of thing that I want to make with them. But so I'm definitely trying to keep to that, but I know when I'm going to this knitting festival, which by the way is called Barcelona Knits, it's in Barcelona, it's the 17th and 18th of November, and I will be going there. I'm going by myself, and I'm really, really excited. I will get to meet Connie of Chile Knits in person. I've chatted to her a lot already, both regarding this yarn that she sent me and just off and on. I will also get to see again Lisa of Trey Liz, who I've worked with on 2 projects, and I met her a couple of 2-3 years ago now. And I'm just really excited. It will be my first ever proper big knitting festival that I will be going to, Yarn Festival. It's the first ever one of Barcelona Knits, but I'm still really excited to see how it will be. There's some really interesting people there, and I'm also interested to get to know, people and yarn brands that I don't already know. There are amazing classes, but I didn't know that I could go until very recently. I only just booked my flights, so of course I haven't been able to sign up for any of the classes because they were all fully booked. But they were the likes of Isabel Kramer, Hochi Locatelli and Vera Faramaki. So I'm very much excited about the prospect of going. It was the last chance that I would have to go to something like that before baby number 3 arrives, and that will mean, also decently into the future, I will not have such a chance. So I'm glad that it became possible and that I'm going. So that's all I'm going to say about that for now. If you are also going to Barcelona Knits, please let me know. I would love to know, and I would love to meet you. Okay, the final thing I have to talk about is an acquisition. This is my first ever gumball of self-striping yarn, and unfortunately the camera is not picking up all the different beautiful shades of blue that there are here. This is yarn from Twisted Limone from Karen, and this is the yarn which she calls her art yarn. She calls it the art yarn, I believe, because of the sheer number of stripes there are. I think there are at least 8 different stripes, and also the fact that there is speckling within some of the stripes. So she had posted about this a while back on her Instagram, and I fallen in love with several of the colours options. I think there's about 8 different ones, but this was my absolute favourite. I love blue. All the hand-dyed self-striping yarn that I own right now is blue, I'm pretty sure, or has blue in it. That's fine with me. So I'm really looking forward to working on this. It gives me a little bit of a dilemma because normally I would knit self-striping yarn definitely into vanilla socks, and vanilla socks I knit 2 at a time. Now I have noticed that a sock project is also good just to grab and work on, and if it's not 2 at a time, it's even quicker and easier to grab and work on, because if I really haven't got time to be focusing even on switching my yarns around because I don't know, watching kids at the park or what have you, then just having one sock to work on attached to one ball of yarn might be handy. I'm always terrified, I just think, while I think for me, knitting socks 2 at a time does not take me longer than knitting them 2 separate socks, personally. I'm quite dexterous at working 2 at a time, it doesn't bother me. So I don't think it slows me down, and it gets me to the full end finished thing, unlike if I were to knit one whole sock and then another whole sock. But I'm wondering, the fact that this is in a gumball, already wound up, and I can just start knitting from it, and of course I can only knit 1 sock, rather than winding some of it off to make a separate cake so that I can knit them 2 at a time. I might just take this as sort of a sign and try doing the socks one at a time. And I'm also considering throwing a little pattern in there, or a rib or something on the foot maybe. So we'll see. But yeah, I have no experience in knitting from gumballs actually. But it's just beautiful, and I'm looking forward to seeing how it will knit up. And I think that will be a very special project. So I might save that for a special cast on, or we'll see. So I think that is everything that I had to share with you this week. As I said, I didn't have a ton of stuff. I hope I didn't race through it. I see I've taken a sort of reasonable length of time, I would say. I very much hope to be back with you sooner. I know I keep saying that, but that's just life. And with more progress on designs, and maybe putting out some old whips, which I also want to do. I know that Hochi Locatelli will be at Barcelona Knit, so it will be, well, I already have a finished couple of projects I've worked of her designs. It would be amazing to have finished the Recollector cardigan, not least because I'm pregnant. I can actually wear the Recollector cardigan. I can wear my Radiate sweater, but of course it comes down to like just a bit below my belly button right now because of the bump, which I'm fine with. I've been wearing my sweaters just over, long t-shirts the whole time. But anyway, we'll see. We shall see, and I certainly will be bringing along my whip that I'm working on with Connie of Chile Knits yarn. I plan to sit in her booth and chat with her for some time. She's already offered me, the chance if I need to sit down and take the weight off my feet for a little bit. So I'm very much looking forward to that whole process, that whole experience, sorry. Process, wrong word. Anyway, I hope you're all well. I hope that everyone's enjoying a lovely autumn time. Of course, that applies to Northern Hemisphere people, but anyway, we've been having glorious sunny days where all the leaves are turning and some of them are green and some of them are gold. And so I've been very much enjoying autumn so far. So sending love to you all and looking forward to seeing you again soon. Bye.